no better place to be on Memorial Day than beautiful Belmont Park. The front side, the backyard, we're rocking, packed with people, family, friends, all having a great time at the races. And we are off and running on this latest edition of the National Racing Report. Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend, and we are dark the next couple of days at Belmont Park, but fear not, we have got to recap Big Apple Showcase Day. It's the MIG, Richard Migliore, Andy Serling is vying between rivals, and Jason Blewitt stalking the pace on the outside, less than 2 weeks out from the Belmont Stakes Day card, Belmont Stakes Festival. But I'll tell you, Monday's Big Apple Showcase Day was pretty good.
Yeah, we're all New Yorkers. We all like the New York Breds, and I think they put on a heck of a show today.
They really did, and it's nice to see all the owners and breeders that support us year-round here in New York come out and enjoy this day. It was a really good vibe and just a nice, exciting day of racing.
Indeed it was. Weather was perfect. We were fast and firm, and we had the best in a few divisions on both the turf and the dirt, beginning with the main track and the commentator, which went as one of the early card stakes, named for a great New York bred, and let's pick this one up from the starting gate.
Well, one thing you knew that Reed the Byline was going to lead, and the others were going to have to act accordingly. I'll tell you what, Javier Castellano, though, he's riding so well that he's just making no mistakes. He had no problem dropping back to last with the eventual winner, Richie.
Now, and just what you're saying, I mean, he's just riding so well. I love the way he wound up drafting in behind horses and angling out smoothly after he made the turn for him. No unnecessary loss of ground. And just the confidence that he's exuding, you just feel like he knows he's going to get there.
No, and I'm sure he knew he had a horse underneath of him. And Tom Albertrani actually has some good numbers, stretching horses out second off a layoff. And this horse, he had some good things and some bad things happen his last start. He took advantage of a very fast pace to finish second, but he had to swoop around the entire field today, and Jason talked about it, where the rail was very, very good. Well, he showed that he's improved from 3 to 4, and that's the thing about this race. Maybe the older horses aren't at the top of their game, and he's starting to get to his.
Well, and horses develop at different stages. It's just like human athletes. You know, the kid that's the best in 8th grade maybe isn't the best at 11th grade, and so on and so forth. And this horse just has really gotten good. Looked great. I thought his coat was outstanding. Tommy Albertrani had a tough early part of the year, but his horses are really coming to life.
No, it's nice to see Tommy doing well. He's a very good trainer. He just had a struggle down in Florida during the year, but a win like this can propel him forward. And, you know, it was so nice seeing the whole West Point crew down there cheering for the horse and down the winner's circle, Jay.
They show up and they bet their money, and we like that. And they'll be back on the Belmont Stakes Day card Saturday, June 6th, taking on some of the better turf horses in New York in the Grade 1 Manhattan with Twilight Eclipse. Javier Castellano busy under the wire with Empire Dreams, but let's give some credit to both Reed the Byline and Saratoga Snacks, who did not want to give an inch at crunch time.
No, they both ran very well and fought it out down the stretch. Saratoga Snacks is running well for trainer Gary Siaka, and it was nice to see him get back in the winner's circle when Gary got him back. Has nothing to do with Gary. I just think he's not quite as good as he once was, but still pretty good.
Yeah, he's still pretty good, but I agree with that. I don't think he's quite as good as the form he had as a younger horse, but he keeps trying. I don't know that he was completely comfortable in between horses there. It looked like he kind of jumped his left lead when the winner, Empire Dreams, came on his outside, and he finished, but he didn't finish with that same resolute kind of kick that you're looking for from him.
Well, Reed the Byline's a game horse. I think it was hard to get by him, and it took some of the starch out of him trying to get by that one. And I wonder, now that you mention it, if that was part of Javier Castellano's plan, or maybe we're giving him a lot of credit, but thinking if I can swoop to the outside because he broke inside of him, and maybe putting Saratoga Snacks in that spot is not his favorite position.
Yeah, and again, just he saved the ground when he needed to, and then he eased out and he came with that run. So it was a good ride. The horse was good, and it kind of, you just illustrated how good these races were because you had 3 horses in there fighting to the wire.
Oh, yeah, all 3 of these horses ran winning races. It's just there can only be 1 winner in general and 2 losers.
And that's it. There's only one way to get it done,
right?
And that's to get there first.
And even watch the tie finish second in today's first race behind one side. And that looked like it might be a dead heat. It wasn't a dead heat. And let's move on. The Bowery 3-year-old fillies ready to rock and roll here on the National Racing Report. Purse of $125,000 and a good-looking 3-year-old debut from Kazan for trainer Bob Rovato.
This was a very good performance for her. And other than her 2-turn race in the Demoiselle, which she really didn't get that great a trip anyway, point. She has been absolutely terrific. 3 for 3 at Belmont. It's important to note this race went 3/5 of a second faster than Mike Lee, and Ostrolenko was impressive, but not as impressive as this horse off the layoff for Bobby Rovato.
No, and the fact that they didn't go as fast early as the Mike Lee, and she was coming from off the base, it just kind of further illustrated how well she kicked through the stretch.
I agree. I mean, we'll talk about the other race a little later, but it's not like she was taking advantage of some sort of collapsing pace. And Lakeside Sunset, who finished second, she's a very, very good horse for trainer Bruce Brown. And Bobby Robato's a very good trainer, but his horses, he's an old-school horseman who usually gives him a start or so, and his numbers off layoffs aren't very good. But this filly overcame it by winning her debut, and she's continued to show she runs well fresh, and I got to think she's only going to move forward from here.
But don't you think that's the interesting part of this is that the fact that you don't, at least I don't believe he had her cranked up for her best effort, and she still ran this kind of race, that there's probably improvement there.
Oh, no question about it. Whether or not she's going to ultimately be good enough to run against horses, the 3-year-old fillies in the test, that remains to be seen, but they have to be thinking about a race like that. And listen, we haven't exactly seen superstars so far from the overall 3-year-old filly division. Why can't this horse have a chance to have a say in the graded stakes at Saratoga?
I agree, and I like her actually around one turn. I think she's just better because she's got that turn of foot. She doesn't change leads. It's a bit troubling to me. Would like to see her change leads and finish the deal, but she didn't as a 2-year-old either, and she ran down the stretch on her left lead. Maybe she's just a southpaw.
She's been terrific. And, Mark Keller, who puts a lot in the game, a big fan of the game, Bobby Rovato, who we've known for so long, been around the game, both very popular guys. It would be really great to see them go to Saratoga and have at least a chance, if not more than that, in the big races there.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that combination, Mark Keller, Bobby Rovato. How many trainer-owner combinations do you see that have been together that many years together? The one that comes to mind immediately is Barry Schwartz and Michael Hush, and Mark Keller, Bobby Rovato. There's more out there, so I'm sorry if I'm leaving anybody out, but it's not the usual thing. It's not the norm.
No, loyalty in this game, for the most part, at least on the big stage, the brightest stage, is pretty understated and underwhelming for the most part. And I believe the story goes that Mark Keller and Bob Rovato were roommates in college, and they have kept in touch, and clearly they have won some big races over the years. You talk about maybe this filly being a Grade 1 Saratoga caliber test kind of horse. I think of Grand Couturier, who won a couple of races, right?
Yeah.
Two sword dancers, right? Yeah, 2 sword dancers, and Brebone, who on Memorial Day, I think that was 2009, 6 years ago already, won the Metropolitan.
No, they've had some success together, and it'd be nice to see them get a chance to have some more. And Kazan's a filly that could take them a long way.
And we're just sorry Tiz Wonderful is currently standing in Korea. I need to find somebody that knows what's going on in Korea so we can get down on some of his firsters at big prices, because he has been a top-class sire. Let's move on to the Critical Eye, named for a 2-time Grade 1 winner at Belmont Park, who's one of only 8 New York-bred mares to earn over $1 million. We'll pick it up on the far turn run, and I will send it over to you guys as Sharifa runs a hole in the wind.
I'll tell you, Richie, I couldn't have had this horse even now if we could bet the race, but I love that Jose Ortiz and Linda Rice had a plan. The only way she's effective, and she said it to you after the race, is putting this horse on the front end. He let a good horse do what she does well. She went fast early, and she still was able to win quite easily.
And she went fast to the 3/8 ball, and then he asked her to get away from everybody, and I thought that was the key. He ripped the race wide open, leaving the 3/8 ball, and the race was essentially won by the 8th ball. Now, she finished on fumes, but it was over. It was a tactically beautiful ride and a great plan that they executed, and obviously they had a filly that was up to the task.
And I just wonder why more people don't do this. You've got a horse that the only way she had a chance to win this race was to rip it apart early. If she does it and she fails, so be it. She wasn't going to rate or go slowly and let everybody else in the game and still win the race. They gave her her best chance to win, and lo and behold, it paid off.
Yeah, speed is good. Aggression is good. I mean, it worked, and I don't understand why more people don't make use of this speed.
The few times a week we're doing Prattles, Mig and I are doing the Belmont Insider Show, you get an aggressive ride. I feel like it happens 3 or 4 times a week. Somebody will step up, ride aggressively, and get rewarded, and it's such a rarity for the most part around here. It makes you step up and sort of take notice.
No, I agree. And even when they lose, they look at a ride Eric Cancel gave to a long shot in Sunday's first race, where he took no prisoners in that race and went pretty fast early, and he lost by about that much at 21-1. But he gave the horse its best chance to win.
I agree with all that, and I was not bashful about using a horse's speed and letting them go on. But I will say, to be fair, there's probably no worse feeling for a jockey to lead every step of the way and to get nailed late, and it does open you up for less enlightened people to criticize you.
Well, in this case, it helps that you have Linda Rice, who understands the situation. Sure. So if this horse loses, Linda's going to say, we took our shot, it just didn't work out. And you need, and I agree, it's hard for jockeys. What if a trainer gives you instructions and you know better and you want to ride other horses for them? It's not always as easy, and we tend, and I can do it too, to just blame riders. It's a bigger picture out there. I just wish in general people were more aggressive.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that, and I blew up a lot of bridges just doing what I thought was right at the moment.
I don't buy that. Who are we sitting with? Antonino Muccio, the winning owner, by the way, picking this filly up for $16K. The same connections that brought us Powers, who won a couple Grade 1s at the Spa last summer. Let's move on to the turf scene. Longevity. Talent is talent, but there's something to be said about these horses who have stuck around one year after another. It's just impossible not to get attached and to be big fans of horses like Carafa and Lubash. It's impossible.
These horses are terrific warriors out there. And Lubash out in the clear, he made it much easier for, I mean, not Lubash, Carafa out in the clear made it easier for Lubash. And Junior Alvarado just sits the perfect trip, angles out the top of the stretch, and blows by. These are two very good horses.
Two very good horses. It's like the equine version of Ali Frazier. I mean, they just show up, they go toe-to-toe, they slug it out, and they're so talented. And at advanced ages, Lubash at 8, Carafa at 6, and a credit to their trainers that they've been able to keep this good form for so long.
No question about it. And Lubash, it's amazing walking at these horses' PPs. Carafa's had one or two missteps along the way. Lubash never seems to run a bad race. These are really, really nice horses that put on a great show. And I was glad to see that King Creasa came back with a much better effort than his return at Belmont at the beginning of the meet.
Well, I think it's harder for a horse like him to be fit because he runs the whole race. He's got speed. When you get a horse that's a closer, you can run him a little bit short because he's only going to run a short portion of the race, where a speed horse has to run harder longer. And
I also think the way the Widener had been playing all week, where horses making outside runs had been more effective, it kind of hurt King Creasa cutting it out a little bit in the front end, and I think we'll see another good race from him. The great thing about these horses is they continue to show up in these races, and there's never a disappointment. They're always putting on a good show.
No, and there's plenty of opportunity to run. We've got 2 more remaining New York Bred Championship days left on the racing calendar, and those $75,000 to $100,000 overnight stakes may attract a comparable cast going forward. A likable crew at a good Kingston here on Memorial Day. Fillies and mares, let's see what happened. Maybe from a talent standpoint, and these horses aren't as good as the ones that we just saw in the Kingston, but this group was okay, and I'll tell you, Bruce Levine's got a pretty good one in the form of Invading Humor.
And Richie, I'll let you talk about this, but I thought this was an absolutely terrific ride by Rajiv Mirage.
This is a tremendous ride. For him to thread the needle here without bothering the horse stopping to his inside, it takes perfect timing, poise, and just a sensitivity to your horse and your surroundings, because he could have easily bothered the horse stopping. Instead, he was able to thread that needle, and I think this race, more than any other, signals to me that Rajiv Mirage is back in form.
I could not agree more, Richie, and I couldn't have said it even as well. This was an absolutely terrific ride, and, much like Kazan and Bobby Robato, Bruce Levine is a trainer whose horses often need a start. His record off of layoffs, not that great. Second off, third off, they do much better, especially on the turf. So for her to run as well as she did today is a sign that, A, they did have her ready, but also that she's a very good filly.
And here's a really clear illustration of what we're talking about. As the horse is backing up in the rail, you can't just fire up in there without protecting that horse's ground a little bit. Now, she stopped, and he was able to slide into the same spot. And I guarantee you the horse on the lead didn't realize it was a different horse until he saw that, oh, my gosh, there's Rajiv, and a minute ago it was somebody else.
No, it's true. He kind of just appeared in there. It was just an excellent ride, and she's a good horse. And you think about her sister out there. It's her half-sister, right?
No, I think they're both Invasors. Yeah, they're full sisters. Distorted Beauty, who won a 3 other than a few days ago, maybe last week.
She won a 6-furlong race about 2 weeks ago.
3/4, and I think it was a 3 other than. I mean, to have 2 full sisters out of this Distorted Humor mare, very funny. And both are just solid turf horses. Well, 2015 looks pretty good going forward for Bruce Levine.
And I think unlike the males, where you've got Lubash and Carafa and King Creasa, the division for the fillies and mares is much more open. And this performance, first time out, I think shows that Invading Humor, who's won a mile and 1/8, she's the horse to beat in this division, at least as of now.
Well, I think so. And you go back to her pedigree. Invasor was a horse that I thought got better with age, and it seems like his offspring get better with age. She's 5. She might just be getting to her best form.
Some of those Invasors, they might want to race until they're about 12.
That might be the case.
Well,
Maybe that's
that
all
could
they've
work.
needed, because a lot of the ones at 2, 3, 4, and 5 have not been that good. I'll tell you, Bruce Levine's have been the aberration or the exception to the rule. We saw assistant trainer Mike Tenuzzo always does a good job. The assistant trainer of the Stars, we like Mikey, and he got his picture taken. He was pretty happy after taking the Mount Vernon with invading humor. About the 3-year-old New York breds, let's see what happened in the Mike Lee. Back on the main track, 7 furlongs with this stake. And this pretty much, a competitive group on paper, turned out to be a one-horse affair in the form of Ostrolenka, who was terrific.
And he went after Wincoma early to make sure he didn't get a breather up front, and he attacked him. And even though the race was slower, because he was involved in that fast pace earlier, it's hard not to say he ran as well as we saw Keyson run later today.
I thought he ran terrific, and it just shows his affinity for Belmont Park, the one turn, the wide swing turns. But what Johnny Velasquez did was the key. He came out running, forced Wincoma to go on, spreads the field out. Now he can put his horse out in the clear and kind of dictate the flow of the race from second, where if he breaks and just allows the race to unfold, maybe there's no separation and he's trapped up in there on a big, long striding horse.
It's once again a good example of getting your position going forward, and he allowed that separation to take place, and nobody could come and catch them. This is a very nice performance by Ostrolenka. Do you think Ostrolenka can be effective stretching out? And if not, or even if so, which horses in this field will be more effective as we go to the New York Derby and as well as the Albany and Saratoga?
I honestly, the first two to me, I'm not the third horse. The jury's not out for me yet.
I agree.
I mean, because he finished extremely well, but was that like the one-run sprinting type of run? I'm not 100% sure, but I think both Ostrolenka and Good Luck Gus will stretch out effectively. I'm not so sure, though, Ostrolenka is going to be as good around 2 turns. I know 1 turn, he's got no problem getting the distance.
Yeah, the 1-turn mile seems to be good for him. I'm a little dubious. We'll see if these horses, because they'll probably go up to the New York Derby, and also Good Luck Gus. Rudy's numbers off laps not that good. Why can't he run better? He ran fine.
And his 2-turn effort in the Damon Runyon from an impossible post with a ridiculously wide trip over in Queens was a good effort. Didn't break any stopwatches, but for him to build off that and come back off the lengthy layoff that dated back to the December Damon Runyon, thought it was an okay performance in picking up the pieces. It's weird, though, with Ostrolenka, who's now 4 for 4 at Belmont. He loves it here locally. At Aqueduct and Saratoga, well, Saratoga was his debut, but this was a horse to me that just never got going over at the Big A for some odd reason.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's a little bit about 2 turns. He may not be comfortable around 2 turns, but he ran so badly that it feels like it could have been something else.
He's just such a big, long striding horse that I think he needs to build into that rhythm, and I think a 2-turn race where you run to the first turn hard, he kind of gets discombobulated a bit.
We take a little road trip to the Twin Spires, and we check out the scene in the backyard at around 7 p.m. on this Memorial Day, still hanging out, enjoying the perfect weather on Long Island. We're going out to the West Coast for the Whittingham and a lot more. $15 limited grandstand admission is available here at Belmont Park. We are capping the attendance at 90,000. They are going fast. They will sell out. And don't wait, BelmontStakes.com to be a part of history on Saturday, June the 6th. And here is the Taj Mahal as we continue to write a new chapter in the 2015 Spring-Summer Meet. May 4th, 1905, the first hoof prints ever to be made on this main track. We're going strong, and we have a date with destiny with American Pharoah.
No, I mean, American Pharoah is obviously the topic of conversation in racing wherever you go. And I think we're all such big racing fans that we obviously excited about the Triple Crown, but there's going to be so much great racing on that weekend and that day that there's a lot to look forward to besides just the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, we'd like to see a Triple Crown winner in the Belmont exciting race, but I'm almost more excited about the Met Mile. This could be one of the best Met Miles I can remember.
No, I agree. You know, going back to, I think it was 1986 when we had horses like Garthorne won and Turkoman was in there and Lady Secret and Proud Truth. It's that kind of race where you've got all of the stars, the older horses lining up. It's going to be an interesting race because there's talented speed and there are talented closers. Horses coming to the race not off their best efforts. We've got the Phipps, and we're going to see last year's 3-year-old champion, Untappable, coming here. Some great turf races. There's just a ton to look forward to.
Right, and Untappable supposedly or evidently had a huge workout, a good-looking breeze here on Monday, Memorial Day. And looking forward as well in that Met Mile, seeing 2 Belmont Stakes winners clash in the starting gate. That is something that just doesn't happen often. Let's get out to the West Coast as we have Sunday's Charles Whittingham Stakes. a short field as we pick it up on the final turn run, and Gary Stevens doing his best once again. Actually, check that. Yeah, we did have Gary Stevens here as aboard the big, heavy favorite, Ashley's, what is that?
Ashley loves sugar.
Thank you.
And Ashley loved the pace up front and loved circling wide in the stretch. Not a lot you could say about this race, but one thing I will say, she was best.
She was best. Gary Stevens rode her with supreme confidence, wasn't concerned about the ground loss. You couldn't say it was a sweet trip for Ashley Love Sugar,
Come
but
on.
she got it done. And Flavian Pratt, another good ride on the second-place finisher for Richard Mandela.
I agree. This was a very good ride by him, and I don't think she ran particularly well, to be honest, because given the trip and given the winner came from well back, I think she should have put up more of a fight, and she really didn't in there. She struggled to get by the horse in the front end, but maybe we should give some credit to the horse in the front end with Mike Smith.
And I have to just correct everybody, including myself, who I did not even know or couldn't pronounce the winner's name. These are Colts and Geldings here. These are the boys, not the girls.
Well,
Ashley Loves Sugar threw us all off.
I was going to say, I was going to try to give us a break there and say, well, when people give horses women's names, it's much harder for male horses, but you know what? Ashley can be a man's name as well.
And the second-place finisher, Ganesh, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. Well, we should have known that Divine Oath, Todd Fletcher's horse that was the 5-2 second choice, was a male. That horse shipped across country and did no running whatsoever.
Well, Todd is doing a lot here. He didn't get the money in the Whittingham. He's got
ship.
14 wins here at Belmont Park. In fact, with another week down, tied with Chad Brown. It's 14's wild with a lot of racing left to come. And that'll be the story on this show as we have a double remaining beneath the Twin Spires, or 1-1 at Churchill and Woodbine.
There's a great new way to follow exciting New York racing with the redesigned NYRA.com, featuring multiple camera angles of live streaming HD video, so you won't miss a second of exciting thoroughbred racing. And New York residents can bet through the new state-of-the-art and customizable wagering interface, featuring an enhanced bet builder and time-saving additions like the copy bet and swap leg buttons. What are you waiting for? All the action is on NYRA.com.
Latter stages of this edition of the National Racing Report. We had Christophe Comont and Tonalist in that NYRA.com commercial. Christophe Comont scored a win here Monday. I wanted to call it. Feels like a Sunday. It's a Monday. Got the money with Lou Bax in the Kingston. It has been a long week. Monday, Memorial Day, and his barn, Mig, just went over the $100 million mark in career earnings.
Only the fifth trainer in history to go over $15 million in earnings. And that's pretty lofty company there, isn't it?
No, I mean, Christophe does a sensational job. And you talk about, the trainers here, and I think Chad Brown and Todd Fletcher, and deservedly so, get a huge amount of the press here. But Christophe is another one of these trainers, and we look at trainer stats, especially you and I, a lot. We're talking about talking horses, doing the shows. He's got just an abundance of sensational numbers.
He does, and he trails now the legendary Alan Jerkins only by about $2 million in purse. Now, of course, Alan won a majority of his major races when the purses were somewhat smaller, but it's a huge, huge accomplishment.
No, it really is. And I was looking up Christophe's numbers year by year just recently, and he's really been picking it up. He's getting more horses in his stable because he's had a lot more stars over the last couple years, and especially over the last year.
And I think the pigeonhole phrase, he's a turf trainer only, that is a phrase that is evaporated. That is out the window.
Nonsense.
He is a world-class horseman. We're lucky to have him here at Belmont Park. Let's get to the action beneath the Twin Spires at Churchill Downs. We've got one at Churchill, one at Woodbine, and we can get to extra luck, a gelding, a 4-year-old, by exchange rate in Sunday's Louisville Handicap.
Richie, I think this is a confident ride by Brian Hernandez with this horse. He was in position the whole way, and it really looked like, for greater glory, the runner-up, who I want to discuss, might get him in the stretch, but he really held him at bay the whole way.
He did, and he finished the deal. I mean, he shaded 24 seconds for the last quarter of a mile, going a mile and a half. And I think one thing you have to look to, Brian Hernandez knows he's riding for a trainer that horses are dead fit. Neil Howard does not send out short horses. He knows how to put the stamina in them and the foundation in them, and I think that gives a rider confidence to go on earlier in the race than they might, thinking he might get tired. He knew he wasn't going to get tired.
And, we all have a lot of friends around the racetrack, and we root for so many people, and it's nice to see people do well. I don't think you can find a guy that is more popular than Neil Howard. He is honestly probably as good a guy as you'll ever find at the racetrack.
As good a trainer and as good a person as you're ever going to find. And you think about the work he did with Summer Squall, with Curlin, or I'm sorry, not Curlin. Who was the other one? Mineshaft. Mineshaft. I mean, just a guy that knows his way around a good horse and gets the best out of all his horses.
Absolutely.
He was the first time I ever went to the barns here back in the fall of '98 I talked to, was doing my first ever program story, my old job working for the now retired Glenn Mathis. He had Lil's Lad coming back off the layoff and had a talk, and he was just the nicest guy ever.
Great guy. Terrific trainer as well.
120 buyer across the board there with Neil Howard. Let's wrap up the show. We've got race number 9. It is the Nassau Stakes from Saturday's action north of the border at Woodbine, and here they come. I do get a kick, and we rarely go to Woodbine on this show. It's nice watching a big field turn for home on that turf course.
This is a great ride, too, on the winner by Boulanger. You see him thread the needle with the yellow 3 from the outside. He does a fine job saving ground, getting out, and running him down at a big price.
Yeah, he really did a fine job, and he's been getting some play from Mark Cassie and the Oxley horses. It's always a good thing. And, it's so much fun when I rode to ride on that turf course because you turn for home, and you got so much time to find your spot, pick your way, and get going. A really, really fun course to ride. And it looked very European, the way they spread out and finished down the middle. You mean, you kind of squint, you could be at Longchamp or someplace.
No, this was cool, and it is a European look, going a different way, but it is really a nice look. I thought that Stellar Path, actually, who I believe was the favorite for Christophe Clement, and he likes to ship to Woodbine, she may have disappointed finishing 4th here, beating just 2 lengths, but she was aggressive early, and considering how this race collapsed, I thought she ran a sneaky good race.
Well, that was going to be my question to you. Do you think maybe just a bit too aggressive early, got a bit too involved?
I agree. Well, I have to think Christophe was very unhappy because there's one thing he doesn't want to be is chasing inside with no cover in front of you. I mean, that feels to me like one of the worst positions you could be in, especially with a Euro.
It's a much harder trip on a horse because they don't really ever get a chance to shut off and breathe. They got to run hard the whole way.
And she ran well considering the trip.
9 up, 9 down on this edition of the National Racing Report. Dark the next couple of days at beautiful Belmont Park. Back at it this Thursday. First race post of 1:20 p.m. Next week, maybe a little Belmont Stakes preview with you guys on this show. And we'll cover the Pennine Ridge, the Penn Mile, and the American Oaks. Have a great week at Belmont Park. Always good hanging out with the boys. And we'll see you next time right here on MSG Plus.